Are you considering to get solar but don't know where to start? This video is for you. We're going to go over the reasons we got solar. We're also going to go over the 3 types of solar systems available, along with the main components that's involved with the solar system.
I'm Mike with Ozark Homesteading Chronicles.
Hi, I'm Karen.
And today's going to be an overview of just kind of how our journey went through for the solar. This isn't going to be a technical video on exactly how you would design or install a solar system or even specifically use it. I am going to have a channel where we're creating a DIY solar workshop. And with that, we'll be all about how you do all of those things. And we're going to go deep into exactly how you would wire up an inverter and plan your system. With this, we really just want to give you an idea of what we did on our solar system.
Absolutely. Now, there's many reasons to get solar, but we're going to go over the top reasons that convinced us to get solar. Our main one is energy independence. We don't want to be relying on the grid, and we just want to have our independence of having our own power.
It's like everything we've done with our food, growing our own animals, milk, things like that. We don't want to have to rely on anything outside.
Absolutely.
Now, the next one is going to be the power stability, because we've had a major issue with our power system here. Ever since we moved in for the last 3 years, power goes up and down. We'll have where we have spikes, then we're going to have brownouts is what we call them, where our power literally goes down or the lights are almost dim.
Yep.
Sometimes that's going to be for a second. It can be 3, 4, 5 seconds. It really is hard on our appliances when that happens. We've lost several appliances because of the power fluctuations on that.
And we shut our AC off during the heat of the day because we don't want them to get fried and ruined. So that's kind of a bummer when it's hot out. We don't run the AC.
Yeah, this is probably one of our biggest driving factors for getting the solar is to get that under control.
We also have backup power during outages when we're on our own system.
Yep.
So when everybody else is out, we still got it going.
And in the summertime, we lose power quite a bit. Yes. In the winter, surprisingly, it's opposite of where you would think. Most time in the winter, lose their power. But for us, it's when everything is being overtaxed for our grid out here, and we'll lose power for several hours at a time. And during those times, we were running the generator quite a bit to keep everything going power for us.
Another thing is it's going to lower our cost on our energy bills with the solar, having our own solar. And we've seen the costs go up quite a bit since we've been here. I'm guessing 30% in 3 years.
I think at least 30, yeah.
And it's only going to get worse. I mean, we just know, as time goes, the energy bills are just going to keep going up.
They're closing coal plants around here.
Yes, they are.
There's a lot of infrastructure they're going to have to do to keep up with the solar or with the actual power. And so solar is going to be a way that we can hopefully cut some of those costs in the future.
It will. So that when they have to fix all that, they have to pay for those bills somewhere, and it's going to come from your energy bills.
Absolutely.
One that I was excited about because I do our taxes and all that is the tax credit that is available with the solar system. You get a 30% tax credit.
Yeah, and that's going to be on really any system you're going to put on your house. It does have to be a qualified system, but if you're putting a system for your house, it's probably going to qualify for that tax credit. And that's going to be 30% off of anything you spend. That's going to come off of your tax bill. So it's not just a write-off. It's a great incentive that they have going right now.
Absolutely. And also the environment benefits. It helps the environment when you're on your own solar. And it'll increase your property value. Having your own solar and you're independent, it'll increase your property value.
Now, we did work in real estate for a while, and I do want to mention with property values, you'll hear people say if you lease a solar system, it will improve your value. That is not always the case. We saw a lot of bad leases in there,
yes, you're right.
and it did not help property value. But if you own your solar system, if you're putting in something like we're doing, it will absolutely increase your value for your house. Now, there's 3 main types of solar systems you can look at. We're going to have the grid-tied system, off-grid system, and then also the hybrid systems. Which one of these makes the most sense for you is going to be partially on what questions that you answered on what's your most important thing with solar, and then also the needs that you're going to have for solar. So let's start with the grid-tied system first. These are going to be systems where your solar panels are tied directly to the grid, and during the day, you're going to be producing your solar energy, and then you're going to be using that. And if you have excess, that's going to be sent back to the grid. But then anytime that you're not producing your own power, so that's going to be on cloudy, rainy days, at nighttime, at times like that, then you're going to be using the grid power on there. Now, these are pretty straightforward systems. You're going to have your solar panels, and you're going to have some sort of inverter or micro inverter on that, and that's normally going to be it. They can have a battery, but I don't see a lot of them with batteries on there. And with these systems, basically, you're going to be doing a net metering where you're sending your solar back to the grid, and they're going to give you either credits or some sort of system, depends on how your energy company works with it, to where you're going to get a reimbursement for the solar that you're giving back to them on there. Now, when you're driving through town or you see a bunch of solar panels on roofs, that's normally going to be a grid-tied system. It's going to be what fits on my roof. This is what I'm going to use and sell back to the energy company. Now, Karen, what are some of the cons of a system like this?
So I feel the big one is when the energy goes out with the energy company, you're out too. Your house is just as dead as the electric company is.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Matter of fact, most of these systems have to register that there's grid power before it'll even produce solar. So if you lose grid power, even if you're on a battery system with these, which most of them don't have, you're not charging your batteries. If the grid power's out and it's sunny, you're not producing any electricity.
You're out of luck. Now, a big benefit is if you live in a town where you have reliable energy in a neighborhood, these are great, because you don't have the blackouts and energy problems in general, and lots of electricity. It's good. Now, a good benefit too is you have a quicker payback on your investment with this system.
It's the fastest way to get your money back out of solar, because you just don't have that much. You don't have the extra components.
Yep.
All right, so the second one is going to be the off-grid systems. So that's just what it sounds. You don't have any grid power at all. We're typically going to see these where there's not any way to get power from the grid or the electric company to your place. And so with that, you're going to have your solar panels, then you're going to have your inverters, and you're going to have your batteries. And I'm going to add one more thing to that that's not solar, and that's going to be your generator or generators. Because basically, if this is not working, you don't have power. So you're going to have at least one generator as a backup, if not two on there. So with this, you need to make sure that you have enough batteries, that you have autonomy. So if you do go through several cloudy days or days that it's not producing well, you have enough power to get through something like that. And then you want generators that can run your whole house. So if you do have something extended or breaks down and it's not working right, then you're able to get through everything on that. Most of the time when you're looking at installing an off-grid system, it's because you're starting from scratch. You're either buying the land or you're getting ready to build the house on land that you own. Because if you had the house there, there's probably already going to have been power if you didn't already have the solar system. The great thing about this is if you're buying land, it's going to be a whole lot less expensive if there's no chance of having power there. Anytime that you have grid access, it's really easy. Land is just going to cost more. So even though you're going to spend more for the actual solar system, it's going to be great that you should get that offset with the land not being as expensive on that. So what are some of the cons of being on an off-grid system?
It's a great question. So the big one is if something breaks down or it's not working, you get to fix it yourself.
Which would be me.
It is. So you don't get to call the energy company and say something's not working, you don't have energy, you get to actually fix it. So you're going to be running on your own generators until you get it back up and running again. Now, it is going to be more expensive for this system because you have more batteries and equipment needed for the whole off-grid system.
Right.
However, you're going to get some offset with those costs because your land should be cheaper. And also when you have that raw land with no utilities on the property yet, you have to pay for the electricity company to run those lines if you're going to get electric at your property.
That's a good point. People don't realize how much it costs to get all the utilities to their house when they're building a house.
And the farther your property is into the land and off the main roads, the more expensive it gets. So it really can offset it and really balance it out on that aspect.
And so I do think that these systems are best for people who are truly out remote and they don't have a chance to have any grid system at all.
Yep.
All right, and the last one is going to be the hybrid system. So with a hybrid system, you're basically getting a little bit of the best of both worlds. You're going to have your own solar where you're going to have panels, batteries, inverters, and then you're also going to be tied to the grid. So you can choose to use the grid, you can choose to use your system. You can do it however you need to with your needs. So if you do want to just keep all your power and you want to use all the excess power to charge up your batteries, you can do that. If you have any issues with your system, or your system isn't big enough, or even say it's rainy for several days and you don't produce enough power through your system, you can use the grid to finish doing everything with your system. So this is a really good option for people who want to have some independence. If they have a power outage or anything goes wrong with the grid, they still have everything that they can run for themselves. Now, for our example, we didn't want to have the power surges up and down by being on the grid during the day. So this allows us to use grid power at night if we need to charge our batteries, but not see that roller coaster of the issues during the day on there.
Yep. Now, one of the cons in this system is it's the longest payback until you get on your investment. Just because you didn't get a reduction in your land price because you already had electricity on the property. However, it's a great system if you are in the same situation like we were with unreliable power and blackouts always out. And it just is a great, I think, for best of both worlds.
You don't have to have quite as much equipment with this as you would with the off-grid as well.
True.
I mean, we still have a generator backup, but I don't think you have to have as good of a generator. And you also, in most cases, don't need quite as many batteries. You're going to want several days of autonomy with a off-grid system. And with this, depending on what your comfort level is, you won't need quite as many days of that or as many batteries because you still have the grid as a backup for you. When we're describing these systems, we threw out some terms, and I just want to make sure everybody understands the components of a solar system and what they do in there. And there's really three main parts. You're going to have your solar panels, your inverters, and also charge controllers, and then you're going to have your batteries. And what I want to do is just explain how the electricity works with each of those so everybody has a little bit better idea, because we're dealing with AC and DC current. And I know originally when we got into this, you didn't understand really the difference between those.
Yeah, I was totally confused.
So straight solar power and battery power is all going to be DC, and then everything that you're using in your house is going to be AC power. So it's going to need to go back and forth on that. And I'm going to use an analogy. I know it may seem weird because I'm going to talk about clean energy with solar, but we're going to talk about it with your car because a lot of people can understand that a little bit better. So imagine you're at the gas station with your car and you're pumping gas into the car. So that gas coming from the gas station into your car, that's going to be just like the sun's energy coming in, and that's going to be your DC power because all the solar panels make everything into DC. Now, as it goes into the engine and the engine burns that's going to turn into horsepower. Our inverters are going to turn that power, which is DC power, into AC power. So the horsepower is what runs the car. AC power is what's going to run your house. And so it's basically converting that. Now, if you're on a grid-tied system with no battery backup, you're basically stuck at the gas pumps. You're not going anywhere because you don't have any reserve. So once we add the batteries, or what I would call your fuel tank, that's going to allow you to be able to drive your car. And so that's what we're going to be looking at with the off-grid and the hybrid systems, because now you're going to have that extra stored power that we had from the sun, which is going to be your DC that goes into your fuel tank. And then anytime we need to use that, that's going to be pushed into the engine, which is then converted into your AC. I hope that makes sense.
It does. And just to make sure I still have it right, the inverter is changing it from DC to AC.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Your inverter can do a lot of other things too.
Right.
It can feed directly to the house. It can backfeed to the grid, depends on the inverter. So they have a lot of purposes. But yes, you've got it. We want to make sure that inverters can move that around.
Gotcha.
Well, this isn't a video to talk about how to actually design your system. The two other things I wanted to just mention is you need to figure out how much energy you're going to need, and then also what kind of availability you have to getting good sunlight on there. If you're off-grid, you're going to need to actually figure out your appliance load and then try to guess how much energy you're going to use. Whereas if you're on-grid, the great thing is, like we did, we just grabbed our utility bills. Yep. Looked over the last couple of years, we had a good idea how much energy we needed every month to run everything. And then we also have to figure out, do I get enough sunlight, and where is that going to be? So, on most places, you're going to see it on the houses. There was no way that we could put enough panels on our house to run the system that we wanted. And we ended up actually not putting a single panel on our house because we ended up with, something off to the side. But you want to make sure that you have good access to the sunlight with whatever system you're designing.
As you probably already guessed, we went with the hybrid system based off our needs and our situation here. And we are going to be doing follow-up videos so you can follow along with our journey on the system and our installation. And we're also going to go into the details of what we used as well during those videos to help you folks out, and you can see.
And while I'll tell you the exact components in another video, I'll just let you know we ended up going with the EG4 outdoor batteries. We got several of those. We also got several of the inverters, which are the EG4, the 18K PV inverters. All that was through Signature Solar. And that's something, if you are looking for that, we do have a link down below for Signature Solar. They were a great company to work with.
They were fabulous.
I've worked with their tech support more than once now, getting everything put together. And again, I've had a really good experience with Signature Solar on there. After installing our solar system, I realized it's something that I really enjoy, putting the solar together, figuring it out, and actually helping people learn how to do their own solar. I had a lot of people ask tons of questions as we were going through this on our system. And so that's why we created the DIY Solar Workshop YouTube channel, which every week I'm going to be uploading new videos, which are going to be really technical on how you go through all those processes on there. And then we're even looking at doing some consulting to help people figure out, when we got started, it was just confusing. Where do I start? What do I do? And so we're going to try to help people who are able to put in their own solar systems but just don't know where to start, get a start on that.
Yeah. If you guys have any questions, be sure and put them in the comments below, because Mike is happy to help answer those questions, because, well, it is going to be him and not me answering those questions. Also, be sure to check out our solar playlist below. And thank you so much for joining us again, guys, and you have a wonderful day.
Thanks.